I have always used late-night gaming to decompress. Headset on, room dark, screen glowing in front of me. It felt like my own little world cut off from everything outside. That is where this whole thing started. Not in some alley or forest, just in a game lobby. It was a regular night. I joined a match, same game I always play, same kind of random teammates. In the middle of the match, a new voice joined our squad chat. Friendly, energetic, asking about loadouts and strategies. Nothing weird at first. They started talking to me more than the others. Nice call out, you clutch a lot? I laughed it off. We played a couple of rounds, then they added me as a friend. I accepted without thinking. It was normal. Everyone adds everyone. Over the next week, we played almost every night. The voice on the other end became familiar. They remembered little things I never expected anyone to pay attention to. You sound tired again. Long day at work. Thursday again. Aren't you usually working late today? They were right. Every time. It felt flattering at first. Someone actually paying attention. But then I started noticing how specific they were. One night, in the middle of a match, I coughed. Just once. My headset shifted slightly. They instantly said, "Same cough like in that voice note you sent last week." I froze. I had not sent them any voice note. I barely sent voice notes at all. The only time I had done that recently was in a private group chat with real-life friends on a totally different app. I asked, trying to keep my voice casual, "What voice note?" They laughed it off. "Relax, I just mean you always cough like that, dude." But my stomach dropped. That answer did not fit what they had said first. It sounded like a backpedal. After that, their comments started to feel different. Sometimes they would reference old stuff, ancient posts, or jokes that I did not even remember making. Like that time you complained about your neighbor's dog on that forum. You always get annoyed. I had done that. Years ago, under a different username. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Internet never forgets," they replied, in a tone that was meant to sound like a joke, but did not. That was the first night I muted my mic before the game ended and shut everything off without saying goodbye. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was being paranoid. I went to the kitchen to get some water. When I passed the front window, one detail stuck in my head. There was a car parked across the street. Engine idling quietly. That street is usually empty at that time. I watched it for a moment, then told myself it was just someone checking their phone or waiting for someone. I went back to my room, sat down, and opened the game app again, mostly out of habit. A notification popped up immediately. New voice message. It was from them. I hesitated for a second, then hit play. Their voice came through my headset, but something about the audio was different. Clearer, less compressed. It sounded like it was recorded directly into a phone, not through a gaming mic. "I think I'm near your place," they said. "Come outside. I want to meet my partner in crime." I thought it was a sick joke, until I heard it in the background of the recording. That same low engine hum. A faint chirping of insects. A street sound that did not match the usual echo of an indoor room. It sounded like they were recording that message outside. I took off my headset and walked slowly to the front window again. The car was still there. As I watched the engine cut off, the street went silent. I backed away from the window. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. It was my bedroom window, taken from the street. I felt my chest tighten. I locked every door and window I could reach. Hands shaking so hard, I kept missing a lock. I called the police. They told me to stay inside, keep the lights on, and wait. Those minutes felt endless. Every shadow outside the window looked like someone moving. Every sound outside sounded like footsteps. Finally, red and blue lights washed into the room through the blinds. The patrol car pulled up behind the parked car across the street. As soon as the officer stepped out, the car's headlights suddenly flared to life. The engine roared and the car shot forward, swerving around the patrol car and disappearing down the road before they could block it. Later, an officer came back and told me the car had been found abandoned. The plates were stolen. Whoever had been inside knew exactly what they were doing. I did not game for several days. When I finally turned on my console again, I only intended to play offline. The notification popped up before I even loaded anything. New friend request. New username. No profile picture. Message attached. You left the lobby too soon. I'm still around, and I always know where to look. I stared at the screen, the glow painting the room in pale light. In that moment, it stopped being a game forever. Whatever was on the other side of that connection was not just a stranger with a mic. It was someone who had sat in the dark across from my house, watching my window, waiting for me to walk outside. And they wanted me to know they could come back anytime. I used to post my art online constantly. It felt safe. Just pixels, usernames, and comments. Nobody really knows you. Not the real you. That is what I told myself. The first message that started everything looked harmless. It was from a blank account. No posts, no photo, no mutual followers. Just a request and a single line. Saw your art. Big fan already. I ignored it. People make weird, empty accounts all the time. A day later, the same account sent another message. You don't remember me, but I have followed your work for a long time. Something about that a long time bothered me. My current art account was only a couple of years old. I decided not to respond at all. Silence felt safer, but silence did not stop anything. Over the next week, I started noticing something strange. Old accounts of mine, things I had forgotten about, started getting new followers. A dusty YouTube account with 3 terrible videos. A forum profile from when I was a teenager. An ancient blog with cringe-worthy posts. Each one had the same new follower. Same blank avatar. Same type of username. They were going through my entire history. Then one night, I got a new message on my main account. Your curtains look even better in person. I stared at the screen. They were talking about the dark blue curtains in my bedroom, but I had never posted them publicly. The only time they had shown up was in a private story to a small, close friends list. I had been testing how they looked with the light. 7 people had seen that story. I knew all of them personally. I checked their accounts. Nothing looked off. I checked my settings. I changed my password, turned on 2-factor authentication, logged out everywhere. It still did not feel like enough. The messages continued. You walk fast when you're nervous. You should not leave your window open so long. Anyone could climb in. I can hear you humming when you work. It is cute. That last one made me physically sick. I had never posted a video with audio of me humming. That was something I did when I zoned out, drawing alone with music playing softly in the background. If they could hear that, they were close enough to hear through the walls. Or the window. I went to the police. I showed them the messages. They said they could make a report, but without direct threats or a clear identity, it was hard to do anything. They suggested I tighten my digital security and maybe stay with someone for a while. That night, I locked every window and closed every curtain. I turned off all the lights and sat in bed with my phone in my hand, screen brightness low. At 1:47 a.m., a new message came in. There was no text, just a video thumbnail. My thumb hovered over it. I knew I should not open it, but I did. The video was shaky and dark. At first, all I saw was grainy black and a faint glimmer of something reflective. As the camera adjusted, I realized what I was looking at. It was my apartment building. The camera was pointed up toward my window. Then the camera tilted closer, and a hand slowly rose into frame and pressed against the glass. A hand from the outside, on my window. I dropped the phone. I heard my own breathing, sharp and ragged. There was no way this was a coincidence. That was my window. I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers and dialed the police again. While I was on the call, I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside my door. Slow, heavy, pausing between each step. The operator stayed on the line with me. I whispered that someone was outside. I did not dare look through the peephole. The footsteps stopped right in front of my door. Silence. Then, very faintly, I heard something pressed against the door. Maybe a head, maybe an ear, a soft exhale. I just want to be part of your life, a muffled voice said. Not through the phone, through the wood. I could not move. I sat there, every muscle tensed, holding my breath. Eventually, I heard the distant wail of sirens getting closer. The footsteps moved away. By the time the police arrived, the hallway was empty. Building security pulled the footage from the camera overlooking the stairwell. It showed a hooded figure coming up the stairs, stopping directly in front of my door and standing there, breathing, barely moving, for several minutes, then walking back down and leaving. The officers told me to stay somewhere else for a while. I packed a bag that night and left. The next morning, when I checked my messages on Wi-Fi at my friend's place, there was one new message from a brand new blank account. Running will not change what I know. I've collected everything. I'll always know where to find you. It hit me then how much I had given away piece by piece. Old posts, usernames, photos where the street sign was accidentally visible. A reflection in a window. A building pattern behind me. I had thought I was safe behind screen. Instead, I had slowly drawn a perfect line straight to my own front door, and someone had followed it. I spent a lot of time in online communities, forums, hobby groups, small Discord servers. Real life is quiet, so the internet fills the silence. That is how I met them. They first showed up in a hobby forum. They always commented on my posts, always replied to my questions, always had something supportive to say. It felt good at first. Someone who seemed to understand what I was into. They started messaging me privately. Nothing weird at the start, just casual stuff about the forum topics. Over time, the tone slowly changed. They asked more personal questions. Do you live alone? What time do you usually sleep? What city are you in? I avoided answering directly, but little pieces slipped out across weeks. A joke about late shifts. A complaint about my noisy upstairs neighbor. A mention that I cooked for one. Eventually, the messages got clingy. I saw you active, but you did not reply. Did I do something wrong? I know you were online. I can tell when you are typing in other channels. I try to be polite, then distant, then just non-responsive. One night they sent, I think we were closer than you know. That line bothered me. I blocked them. 5 minutes later, a new account messaged me. Blocking me will not stop anything. I care about you. I'm coming to check on you. My heart started beating faster. They did not know where I lived. I was sure of it. I had never posted my address. I kept location services off. I blurred street names and photos. The logic in my head said I was safe, but my body did not believe it. I went to bed with the lights on that night. Phone next to my pillow. I kept telling myself that it was all empty talk. I drifted off at some point. The sound that woke me up was not my phone. It was my doorbell. I opened my eyes, disoriented. My room was dim. I checked the clock. 3:12 a.m. The doorbell rang again. Long press. Almost like whoever was out there was leaning on it deliberately. I lay absolutely still. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Wrong apartment. Drunk neighbor. Anything but the person from online. Then my phone buzzed. A new message from a username I did not recognize. I am outside. I can hear you moving. My blood ran cold. I slid out of bed as quietly as I could and crept toward the door. Every step on the floor felt too loud. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. I did not look through the peephole. I could not. I just stood there, a few feet away, feeling the presence on the other side of the door like a pressure. Another message came through. Why will you not let me in? I came all this way for you. I backed away, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone as I dialed the emergency number. I whispered to the operator that someone was at my door, that they had found me online, that I was alone. While I was still on the call, I heard it. Footsteps on the other side. Not leaving. Shifting weight. Turning. Then the faint sound of skin on wood, like someone resting their palm against the door. Then a quiet, muffled sentence, clearly spoken into the tiny gap between the door and the frame. I can hear you breathing. I clamped my hand over my mouth. I did not even realize I was breathing that loudly until they said it. My chest hurt from holding it in. The operator stayed on the line, telling me officers were on their way, telling me to stay away from the door and stay as quiet as possible. Time distorted. Minutes felt like an hour. I stared at the doorknob, terrified it might turn. I heard the faintest rattle of metal. Not enough to open it, just enough to test it. Then silence again. The first sign that the police finally arrived was the flash of red and blue light reflecting under the gap of the door and along the walls. Suddenly, there were heavier footsteps, loud voices, someone knocking and announcing themselves. I opened the door with shaking hands. The hallway was empty. Building security pulled the camera footage later. It showed a figure in a hoodie entering the building, walking directly down the hall and stopping at my door. They stood there, totally still, head tilted a little like they were listening, for 9 full minutes. Then they suddenly straightened and walked away right before the police arrived. I moved out a month later. I changed my usernames, scrubbed my old posts, locked down every privacy setting I could find. I thought maybe I could restart, be invisible again. But every now and then, on some new platform, from some new account, a message will appear. Nothing explicit, nothing threatening enough to report. Just a line that instantly drags me back to that night. I know you're still there. Or, I like your new place. Sometimes I get a message at night that simply says, 312. I tell myself it could be anyone, that I am just paranoid. But that night proved to me that the line between a stranger behind a screen and a person outside your front door is a lot thinner than we want to believe. And someone has already crossed it once.